Disgusting. I found out my wife is having an affair with my stepfather. I never imagined I'd be writing this down. Yet here it is, my story, raw and unfiltered. My wife and I have been inseparable since 7th grade. Our bond forged through years of shared experiences. We journeyed together through middle school, high school, and even college, never once taking a break from each other. Our friends and classmates always predicted our future as a married couple. It was as if our fate was sealed back then. In our junior year of college, I proposed, and after graduating at 22, we got married, believing our love could weather any storm. My family background, however, has always been complex. I grew up amidst turbulence when my parents divorced when I was 6. Later, at 15, my mother remarried a man who brought his own story into our lives. My stepfather, a former Division I basketball player who had played overseas for several years, never quite made it to the NBA, and eventually became a roofer. Now 63. He has been a constant presence in our lives, so much so that my wife has known him just as long as I have. In contrast, I was never athletically inclined despite being dedicated to staying in shape. I simply didn't have the height for competitive sports. Fast forward to today. We've been married for 4 years, and we share a beautiful 2-year-old child confirmed to be mine through a paternity test. Our lives, which once seemed so secure, were built around routines that included my unpredictable schedule in pharmaceutical sales and my wife's steady career as an engineer. We live close to my mother, just a 5-minute drive away, so our families have always overlapped. This proximity meant that I was never far from reminders of the past, both joyful and painful. One afternoon, after an unusually productive day at work where I managed to close nearly half my sales early, I decided to head home around 1 p.m. As I drove into our neighborhood, I noticed a car parked on our street, a car I recognized as belonging to my stepfather. At first, I thought nothing of it. Perhaps he was simply visiting someone nearby. I continued home, using my usual shortcut through the side Dora route that, conveniently, isn't monitored by our security camera. The moment I stepped inside, I was met with unsettling loud noises that sent a shiver down my spine. Following the sounds, I ascended the stairs quietly, my heart pounding with dread. When I finally reached our bedroom and slowly pushed the door open, my worst nightmare unfolded before my eyes. My wife and my stepfather were together in our own bed. For a painful 12 to 15 seconds, I stood there in stunned silence, only a few feet away, unable to process what I was witnessing. It felt as if time had stopped. Every detail of the moment was seared into my memory: the closeness, the intimacy, the betrayal. When I finally confronted them, my wife's explanation was hauntingly simple and brutally dismissive. I just needed something different. That single phrase, repeated over and over, was all I received in response to my anguish. The betrayal cut deep, not just for me, but also for my mother, whose heart now bore the weight of this secret too. I couldn't help but wonder how long this deception had been simmering beneath the surface. With their long history together, I suspect this affair might have started at least 5 years ago, though the true timeline remains a mystery I may never unravel. Now, I'm in the throes of a divorce process, grappling with the shattered remnants of a life I once thought was defined by unwavering love and trust. The devastation I feel is immense, yet I am determined to rebuild and rediscover my own worth. This painful chapter does not define me. Rather, it is a catalyst for growth, a chance to learn from the betrayal and emerge stronger on the other side. This is my truth, a journey through love, deception, and ultimately, the painful yet necessary path toward healing and self-discovery.
My husband is unusually invested in his new friendship, which makes me extremely uncomfortable. A few months ago, Jay began spending a significant amount of time with S. Their meetings occur regular, sometimes as often as once a week or every other week, which, given our busy work schedules, is surprising. What makes the situation even more unsettling is that I have never met S, nor has she ever been invited over. There have been hints that S would like to meet me someday, but plans are never made. And whenever Jay goes out with her, I am not included. One of the first things that raised my suspicions was Jay's pattern of behavior. He has been exceedingly generous to S, going out of his way to help her with even minor issues. For example, when she complained about the cold, he gave her our space heater. I have no problem with him being kind or helpful. However, the fact that he consistently offers to solve her problems makes me wonder if his intentions extend beyond simple friendship. Another incident that left me feeling uneasy occurred when we discussed what to do with our unused Nintendo Switch. The console has been gathering dust in a drawer for years, and I thought it would be wonderful to donate it to a child in need. However, Jay refused to let it go. Instead, he casually mentioned that he had promised S she could maybe borrow it sometime. When I pointed out that we hardly ever use the console, he remained adamant about keeping his word to S. What's even more baffling is that Jay has no hesitation in breaking promises made to Meha Assured, one of my very close friends, that our old Xbox would definitely be given as a Christmas gift. I couldn't help but notice the double standard. Matters escalated further when conflicts arose between Jay and me. Every time we have had an argument since he began his friendship with S, he has stormed out of the house. Instead of returning after cooling down or trying to talk things through, he goes straight to S's place. There, he spends hours away without contacting me. I only know his whereabouts because we use iPhone location tracking. This behavior has left me feeling isolated and increasingly suspicious about the true nature of their relationship. One particularly hurtful incident occurred around Christmas. After making a big deal about wanting to spend the holiday together, Jay ended up spending less than 2 hours with me. Instead, he attended a party with Say Party, to which I was deliberately excluded and was gone for the entire afternoon and night. The disparity between his promises to spend quality time with me and his actual actions has been a continuous source of pain. Eventually, I confronted Jay about these issues. I explained my discomfort with how he was handling his friendship with S, especially regarding the confidentiality of our private conversations. Instead of addressing my concerns, he admitted that he had told S everything we discussed. His rationale was that, since she is his friend, there was no reason to keep our private conversations secret. This confession not only deepened my distrust, but also set the stage for potential awkwardness should S and I ever meet. Frankly, I have no desire to form any kind of relationship with someone who seems so eager to offer refuge to my husband during our moments of conflict. The final straw came when I learned that S had recently ended her relationship with her boyfriend. Before I could process this development, she reached out to Jay immediately. This sequence of events has only fueled my fears that there might be more to their relationship than mere friendship. I want to trust Jay completely, but these behaviors are eroding my confidence in him. I am scared of being hurt further, and, in the worst-case scenario, risking my health if something inappropriate is indeed taking place. I now find myself at a crossroads, struggling to reconcile my desire to trust my husband with the mounting evidence that makes me uneasy. I need guidance on how to address these issues, without losing sight of what is best for our marriage.
My wife cheated on me with her gym partner. Now she's pregnant, and I have no idea if the baby is mine or his. I never thought my life would turn into something resembling a daytime soap opera. Once, I admired her for her sophistication and elegance. I used to see her as a woman of grace and class, someone who lit up every room she entered. But now, I hardly recognize the person I married. Over time, our shared dreams faded, and our home turned into a battleground of emotions and secrets. It all began when I received a shocking text one morning. The message confirmed my worst fears. She was moving in with her gym buddy. This wasn't just a friend. He was the man she had been having an affair with for a while. To make matters even more complicated, she announced that she was pregnant. I was left reeling, unable to determine whether the baby was his or mine. Instead of taking the sensible step of arranging a paternity test, she brushed off the idea, saying that the thought of having her blood drawn was too embarrassing. I couldn't understand how she could be so careless about such an important matter. For the past week, she had been reaching out to me non-stop. Her phone buzzed with message each one, a plea for me to come back and fix what was broken. She would drop hints and gentle suggestions, trying to lure me back into a life we once shared. But ever since I learned about her affair, I have kept my distance. Although we still live under the same roof, our lives have become two separate islands. I barely speak to her now, and when our paths cross, Our conversations are short and filled with tension. Even with all this pain and betrayal, a part of me still cares for her. I remember the woman I loved, and it hurts to see her unravel into someone so unpredictable. I worry about her, even though I know that she has chosen a path filled with mistakes. My lawyer is already informed and is preparing for what I know will be a messy legal battle. The thought of dividing our lives, our home, and possibly even a child is overwhelming. I told her plainly that moving out wasn't a wise decision, especially when things were already so unstable. I suggested she get legal advice before making any rash moves, but my words seemed to fall on deaf ears. It was as if she had already decided on her own path and was not willing to listen to reason. I couldn't help but feel a deep sadness for her, wondering why she couldn't see that she might be better off alone, rather than tied to someone who clearly wasn't right for her. In the midst of this chaos, I couldn't stop thinking about the man she had chosen. I was curious, almost desperately so, about his role in all of this. I asked her if he was aware of the pregnancy and what exactly he had been told. Her answer was as calm and indifferent as she could make it. He knew about the pregnancy, and in his eyes, it didn't matter whether the baby was mine or his. All he cared about was his love for her. It struck me as odd. Why would a single man choose to get involved with a married, pregnant woman when he had so many other options? In my mind, his choice was baffling. Despite everything, I couldn't help but think that, in his own way, he had a certain charm about him. He had a stable job, his own home, and seemed to be in control of his life. Yet, his involvement in our tangled mess made him part of the problem. I often sit alone and wonder what has led us to this point. How did everything we built together collapse so completely? It feels as though our life has been hijacked by events that are too surreal to believe. I'm left questioning everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and loyalty. I struggle with a deep inner conflict. In one hand, I feel betrayed and hurt by her actions, and on the other, I find myself still caring about her well-being. The emotional roller coaster has left me both angry and sorrowful. The situation is complicated further by the thought of a child who might be caught in the middle of this chaos. If the baby turns out to be mine, what does that mean for our future? Will I be forced to share my life, my home, and even my child with a woman who now lives so differently from the one I once loved? These questions haunt me day and night. I can't shake the feeling of dread that comes with the uncertainty of what the future holds. I often lie awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to imagine a way out of this nightmare. Every option seems to lead to more heartache. In this new reality, the simple things in life have lost their meaning. The home that was once filled with laughter and shared dreams now echoes with silence and coldness. Every room reminds me of happier times that now seem like a distant memory. My heart aches for the past, even as I recognize that the future holds only more complications and pain. Looking back, I wonder if there was a moment when we could have saved what we once had. Perhaps if we had been more honest with each other, if we had addressed the small cracks before they turned into huge fissures, things might have turned out differently. But now, every attempt at reconciliation feels futile. The damage is done, and I find myself trapped in a life that is as messy as it is unpredictable. I continue to navigate through this complicated web of emotions and decisions, unsure of what the next day will bring. I remain cautious and reserved, even as a part of me yearns for a return to simpler times. My lawyer advises me on the legal steps I need to take, and I try to follow his guidance, even though my heart is not in it. The future seems to be shrouded in uncertainty, and every decision I make carries the weight of potential regret. In the end, I am left with a mix of resignation and lingering hope. Resignation that things have come to this, and hope that maybe, somehow, I can find a way to rebuild my life after all the chaos. It is a journey I never wanted to take, and yet it seems inevitable. As I watch her leave to join her new partner, I can't help but feel a deep sense of loss for the life we once shared, a life that now belongs only to the memories of a love that has long since faded away. Wife files for divorce, reveals affair, then wants to reconcile at the last minute. My wife, 35F, and I, 38M, were married for 10 years and have 2 elementary-aged kids. The first 7 years of our marriage were absolutely incredible, at least from my point of view. I could not have asked for a better wife and mother. The last 3 years, however, have been much tougher. We attended numerous counseling sessions in an attempt to get our marriage back on track, but we could never really get there. I planned countless dates in red and listened to everything about improving a marriage under the sun. It helped, but there was a gap between us that I could never seem to close, no matter how hard I tried. In the latter half of last year, she blindsided me with a divorce. I deeply loved her, and I was devastated. I tried my best to talk her out of it. She waffled a bit, but ultimately insisted on moving forward. I never received a satisfactory answer as to why she filed. I wasn't a perfect husband. To be clear, I had my faults and could have done better, but I never cheated, was never abusive, and was a great provider. In these last few years, I was 100% committed to trying to save the marriage. A little more than a month after she filed, she was already seeing another guy. A month after that, she introduced our kids to him. Later, during the discovery phase of the divorce process, she confessed to having multiple affairs starting at around the 7-year mark. One of them lasted at least a year, though she claimed it amounted to only a handful of actual encounters. I had no idea she was even capable of this. The amount of lying she did to keep all this hidden is truly incredible. The day I found out was the worst day of my life, but at least I finally understood why we had such difficulty connecting in those last few years. It wasn't for lack of trying on my part. Fast forward 6 months and nearly $100K in lawyer bills later, and she decides she wants to try and reconcile. Mind you, she's still dating the same guy, but she tells me she'll dump him to work on things with me. So, what caused her change of heart? I think it might be because she found out I had started dating someone, who's awesome by the way, or possibly because she realized how much her financial life was going to change with my high income no longer in the picture. For her part, she claims it was because she saw how great of a dad I was being to our kids. I sat down with her and listened to everything she had to say. I felt that this was the least I owed her after a decade of marriage. She took responsibility for her mistakes and gave a heartfelt apology, although she was sure to partially blame my behavior for driving her to it. No matter how thin you slice it, there are two sides to every story. I get that, but I utterly rejected the notion of blaming me for her cheating. That said, I do believe she is truly sorry. Ultimately, though, I told her no and pressed forward with the divorce, which became final a few weeks ago. Meanwhile, she's been relentlessly trying to get me to give her another chance, texting almost daily. It has weighed heavily on me to see someone I once cared so much about now filled with regret and deep pain. I've held firm, though there's just too much damage. I don't think I could ever trust her again. Plus, I have this great new gal who's beautiful inside and out and has been incredibly supportive and patient. To be clear, we met well after I had been served papers. Typing this out highlights the insanity of it all for me. Who in their right mind would try to save a marriage like this? Who in their right mind would even have the guts to ask to fix it? I don't love her anymore, but I did love her for so long. And the kids, the co-parenting, I'll never really get away from this woman. It's hard. I guess I'm not sure why I'm posting this, maybe just to get some validation that I'm making the right call. Has anyone been through something like this before? Any advice?